need being introduced, which I'm sure probably know, probably know if you do. Ece Temelkuran, by the way, forgive me with what I do in the Turkish language, is, I would say, one of the best known, most readable, most interesting of Turkish journalists. I'm not doing that, saying that just because she's sitting next to me. I think it's true. Also, if you look at her track record, she's an investigative journalist, and she's gone into issues in a way that sometimes I think doesn't always happen in Turkey, but I think they have a good track record of sort of penetrating issues and exploring them with some sort of depth. The very specific reason, excuse me, why she's here today is this book that's come out, which I have to confess I haven't read, but I will read because the reviews have been fantastic. I'm not surprised by the fact that the reviews have been fantastic, but also the title, The Insane and the Melancholy, I think is an indication in and of itself of how timely this book is. I mean, it's about Turkey now, and it explains and explores a lot of the things that we are seeing happening in Turkey at the moment. I don't know, I think most of you probably have the handout. She's been a journalist for some time, she's written books, she did a TV program. Obviously, as I said, been a journalist, not only in Turkey, but she's written articles in Arabic and Western media outlets. She was also awarded the PEN Peace Award for Turkish Journalist of the Year, which again, I think, says it all. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to hand the floor over to Ece. She will speak for as long as she likes. She assures me that's not going to be for too long. And at the end of that, we will have questions and answers. So over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Since you did the, hiring the expectations part, we can go to the disappointment part now. Welcome, everybody. It is an honor to be here, and thanks to be a part of this lovely introduction. And I'm always a big fan of CEFTUS, Center for Turkish Studies. They're doing a lot nowadays in England. And personally, Ibrahim Doğuş, I have to thank you for inviting me here. The reason I'm here, as Bill told us earlier, I wrote this book, Turkey, The Insane and Melancholy. In Turkish, its title is Çılgın ve Hüzünlü, which doesn't really, the English title does not really capture the depth of the Turkish title, because it sounds, I don't know, clinical, I think, insanity. Whereas children, the word children refers to unpredictability and some sort of, there's some sort of cuteness in it. My mother met my father in 1971. This is going to be a long night. It was the time that the coup happened, which nobody talks about now. It's the 1971 coup. My mother was in prison, and my father was a young lawyer. My mother was in prison because she was a student, and she was distributing the last letters of Deniz Gezmiş, Hüseyin İnan, and Yusuf Hasan. Those were the three young men who were executed during the 1971 coup. So she was in prison because of that, and my father was in love with her without her knowing. So, as a young lawyer, he rescued her from the hands of fascism. After 1 year, 2 years actually, I was born. So I am the fruit of resisting love, let's say. And then when I was 8 years old, Turkey reached in 1982. And then I grew up, from that night on, I grew up as a different person. Children, I guess, know who they are and where they belong to by looking at their parents' faces. And that was the first time that I saw my parents' faces in such devastation. And therefore I know from those faces that our side, us, our people, have been defeated. So I'm a child of a defeated couple, like many people like me. And then I grew up. A few months ago, I witnessed witnessed another coup attempt. And my nephews, who were 8 years old, witnessed their first coup attempt in Turkey. So Turkey's history has been a vicious cycle of vendettas and military coups and resistance against them. I grew up in this history, and I grew up as a part of a tradition, a leftist tradition. So this book is from a child who grew up as a part of a defeated family, like many in Turkey. The Insane and Melancholy, Turkey, The Insane and the Melancholy, it has 3 parts. I thought it was convenient, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. In yesterday's part, I tried to tell Turkish history from a different point of view. I made a section called the Messy Photo Album of Turkey, and I took some photos. Many of you know these photos already. It starts from Fatih Sultan Mehmet from here in Istanbul and goes on throughout Turkish history with many faces you would be familiar with. And then today's part is, for obvious reasons, is about the AKP government and how Turkey went through the last decade. And the last section is tomorrow, and it's my humble projections about Turkey. It's mostly about Kurds, but it's for the entire country. This is going to be a very short speech, by the way, because I'd like to speak with you all, and I want to answer the questions, I want to hear the comments, and so on. As you all know, the mainstream media, Western mainstream media, has been invaded by the discourse of AKP and its surrounding intellectuals for the last 10 years, at least for the last 10 years. And there was a Turkish model which was famous internationally, which was supposed to be the perfect marriage between moderate Islam and democracy. As we now today are witnessing, not only in Turkey but in the rest of the region, this Turkish model did not really work as well as it was thought to be. So I feel like I am the guinea pig of a failed experiment, of an international experiment. And many people in Turkey feel the same way, I think. For the last 10 years, there has been a polarization in my country, in your country. Most of you are coming from Turkey. But now, the polarization was built on hatred, and nowadays I think we are witnessing something different. It's sort of disgust towards each other. People are feeling disgust, and it is as if there are 2 sides in society which are not going to come to peace with each other. It is supporters of the government and the others. And for the others, and I am being one of the others, many people feel like they are not wanted in that country anymore, which is painful, to say the least. And after the coup attempt, of course, was devastating, and it was a shock to every one of us. And it's very lucky that it has been prevented. But then on, I think there are many serious concerns within Turkey and outside Turkey about democracy, about freedom of expression, and about opposition in Turkey. So, as many of you would know, I am one of those who belong to the opposition. But in this book, I try to write it from a point of view of a writer, not an activist, not a journalist, nothing else but this woman who grew up in Turkey and who tried to tell the story, the entire story, not the opposition part of it. So Turkey's story is a painful and a fun one in a way. And nowadays in Turkey, the devastation of the devastation of constant traumas are trying to be handled by sarcasm and a lot of humor. This is what I try to get into the book, that part try to get into the book as well, the humor, or sometimes sick humor in it. It is not easy to talk about Turkey in English in House of Commons. And I'll be here for another 10 days for this book tour, and I'll be speaking English about my country to the foreigners. And I already wrote the book for foreigners because, first of all, I have been writing in Turkish for many years now, and right now I'm not allowed to write in a newspaper, and by the way, I don't want to write anymore. But once you start speaking in another language about your country, people get intimidated. And I can understand that partly. It is as if you're making complaints about your people to another country, to the powerful people in another country. I can understand that intimidation, and this has been true maybe in the past. But this book is trying to tell how rich the Turkish society is. And as you know, in the last years, when they speak about Turkey in mainstream media, they mostly speak about Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president, or AKP government, be it praising them or criticizing them. And I guess Turkey's story is bigger than that. It involves Can Yücel, Nazım Hikmet, Turgut Uyar, all those great poets, and it includes the leftist movement. It includes all those people who gave their lives in the hope for a better country. So I try to be the voice of those people that have been voiceless until now. Hopefully, I managed to do that. This is more or less what I would like to tell. Is it like 5 minutes?
It's okay. It's around 10 minutes, but that's good. Plenty there to work with. I'd like to actually abuse the position of chair, which you're not really supposed to do, and ask the first question. And it's probably totally the wrong question to ask, and certainly the wrong question to start with.
I'll answer the wrong question.
Uzun is one of my favourite Turkish words.
Yeah. Orhan Pamuk introduced it to English, I think, no?
What?
Orhan Pamuk has, been
I don't know where I first learned it, but I like the word for two reasons. One is, I do think it conveys something about how I experience Turkey. Mm-hmm. Not politically, but through people, through music. I think it's strong in music, through behaviour. But also, I like the mood myself.
Yeah.
But I see Uzun Melancholy as a sort of mature emotion and sentiment. And I sort of make the assumption that from maturity comes wisdom. Now, in saying melancholy, that's almost the concept of attention, not a contradiction. Why do you think, if you accept or can go along with what I'm saying, that melancholia has some maturity, it sort of leads to wisdom, or is an expression of wisdom? Why in Turkish politics does it seem not to have Turkey? Why is it that when we look at Turkey, particularly at the moment, but you just gave a short history, you're driven more by the insanity, you see. And not this leavening, this solidity, this continuity, this deeper, I'll call it melancholy. Why does the one seem to dominate the other? Well, tell me where that whole analysis is wrong.
No, it's not. First of all, I should start with Borges. He has this beautiful quote. Once he said, the dictionaries stand upon the unproven hypothesis that all languages are equal to each other. It's an unproven hypothesis, and all languages, none of the languages are equal to each other. And in some languages, there are some sentiments, some emotions that doesn't, exist in other languages. I think Uzun is one of the important ones, and my favorite is Efkar, by the way. But yeah, Turkey. This book starts with Turkey being the bridge. we are, we've been told when we were children, for generations, we have been taught that we are living on a bridge, and this bridge is, joining, connecting Asia and Europe. And the identity, the so-called identity crisis was, based upon this geographical situation. But I think living on a bridge is something like gives you a sort of timidity. It's like you are rushing something. I guess we are rushing history in Turkey because we are living on a bridge and we are trying to get to the other side or this side or the other side. And each ideological and political project is pushing us to one side. In our childhood and for generations, it was the West which was colorful and which was the target of civilization and so on. But now, with this new Turkey, the new target is to the other side, to the desert. So I think we are pulled and pushed around in this bridge. That's why there is not so much wisdom, maybe, seemingly. But then there is the wisdom of, everything will pass because we are on a bridge. Whoever is on this bridge will go away. Therefore, actually there is the wisdom of laying low and waiting for things to happen.
Okay, that's good.
Which doesn't look like a very, intelligent, clever idea, but then, you have to live with it, and I'm pretty sure you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to think about there. Okay, questions. I'm going to start with one at a time. And if I find we have too many hands, I might go to two or three at a time. You sir first.
About speaking in English is like complaining to Big Brother or some big authority about Turkey. Every country, there was law organizing, let's say, for their country interest. Sometimes they turn blind eye onto some countries, the human rights, treatment of human rights and everything. All other countries seems to be in their national interest and following their national interest. Only the Turkey, where is interest of all the Muslim countries and things. And now they are supporting a big jihadist company. I was being a Turkish and Kurdish. I know they are supporting the ISIS open closely. They couldn't support it. Now they get into Syria. And ISIS cut their bears and they are fighting with the Turkey. That's the news we are getting from international news. By the way, being a newspaper journalist, it should be painful for you because only news we get is from RT because otherwise in Turkey nobody can give proper news about the Turkey and what's going on in there. I think about that, authorities, every country is interested in their national interest, but the people in living their country interest. My sense, Turkey is the only country, it's not interesting only one Turkish people interest, even they're claiming they're nationalists.
Do you have a question?
My question is did you see this in the Turkey or the Turkey? Do you believe the Turkey is just defending the Turkish interest, or is all Islamic countries using the Islam and bringing all the AKP together? And soon is there going to be a jihadist against the West? That's something looks like in the future. Is there any impression that you get in Turkey like this?
Let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
2001, 2008, I guess, 2007. In 2007, I stayed in Oxford for almost a year as a visiting fellow to St. Anthony's College to write Big Mountain across the Turkish-Armenian divide. And when I was there, there was a Turkey seminar, and I was one of the speakers among many. And the last speaker was Egemen Bağış. Egemen Bağış started speaking about Turkey as the last speaker, and then he told every one of us a fairy tale that does not exist, and he told about a Turkey that we don't know. It was like a Netherlands. And after the session, there was a Q&A session. And this was a crème de la crème meeting. It wasn't for students, it was for decision makers, big boys. And the room was like this. I was looking around. And as we, raised our glasses for port, that's a tradition in Oxford, after the session, I approached him and asked, why didn't you let me talk? And he said, I didn't see you. So we spent like 10 years or so where people like me were invisible in intellectual circles and in mainstream media in the Western world. Because the Western mainstream media was very busy praising the Turkish model and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Mr. Erdogan, the president, personally. And then the year 2013 came. It was Gezi uprising, and I was here, by the way, making my first speech in House of Commons. And that changed everything in many aspects, but on international media, the approach was changed dramatically. All of a sudden, they started seeing Turkey in a completely different point of view. Finally, they understood that there was something wrong going on in Turkey, but then, after all those years, they this time misunderstood it. Because after Gezi uprising, the entire mainstream Western media is talking about now is how Mr. Erdogan is an evil person and how Turkey's problem is Mr. Erdogan and nothing else. It is amazing, it is very surprising to me that they don't take the time and they don't waste the energy to talk about the system. They always talk about the man. And it is as if Mr. Erdogan is no longer the president of Turkey, then Turkey's problems will all be solved. So therefore, I'm like, nobody is speaking about what did go wrong with this Turkish model. Because Turkish model was not really only for Turkey, it was for the entire Middle East and many countries, Middle Eastern and Northern African countries. So there was something wrong with the model, there was something wrong with the project. It didn't apply to Turkey, and it didn't apply to the other countries either. So, but still, nowadays, you can, open any magazine, any newspaper in the world, and every day, each day, you find some article, some news piece that is hardly, very strongly criticizing Erdogan. As a matter of fact, I find this unfair. Because he wasn't on his own when the project was started, and he wasn't, he didn't came along one morning and decided that Turkey is going to be like this. This was an international project. This was supported internationally, and now they're leaving him alone. And I think this is unfair for him, seriously. So, as this was an international project, you're right. It wasn't only nationalist interests. But it was almost for beginners level imperial. There was for beginners level imperialist interest in this project, but it didn't come out. I think the way it was planned. So now I think not only Turkey, but the countries in the region are experiencing a failed experiment, and all of us are the guinea pigs of a failed experiment. Yeah.
Can I add something? Sorry. When in the June election there was a balanced parliament in Turkey, Angela Merkel gave open check, open support to Erdogan. They want to one person so they can deal with it in the power. Their interest is just their own interest, their own national interest. Nobody watching the Turkish interest at the moment. Massacre on the Kurdish and everything is happening there. Who do you think is the opposition in Turkey at the moment? I don't see any
those
opposition.
assumptions I wouldn't go into. Yeah.
Just very quickly, I think the Western everything starts Turkey. I'm generalising badly, but journalists in Western newspapers move around. They don't always focus on Turkey all their life, so they have quick knowledge, they're very good at it, coming to an assessment, but it doesn't reflect, second point, Western officialdom, which is actually quite steady about Turkey. When I first got interested in Turkey, time in the late 1980s. A British diplomat said to me, listen, Turkey has democratic forms, but it doesn't have democratic reality. I reckon a British or Western diplomat can say that now, and would have said it at any point in between. So they tend to deal with Turkey as an ally, as a country that you have to deal with, you can deal with, and so on. The interesting issue for me is the scholars of Turkey. We try to understand more deeply. We don't have a dog in the fight in terms of having to establish government relations. And to be honest, it is really difficult for Westerners to understand Turkey. I mean, I feel I get it wrong about every 3 years. I realise that I've been barking up the wrong tree, there's something I didn't get, and it almost doesn't matter how much I study it, go there and talk to Turks and so on. And it's because in the end, I have to say this, we're dealing with a place, the Westerners are dealing with a country that sometimes looks a bit like ours, but isn't. It isn't. So we start using categories that we understand, and also using categories that Turks use to us. And then every so often we get a shock to work out that those categories, those ways of thinking don't explain things. But I just want to say with the West, I think you need to separate out, certainly the media, it's not speaking to everybody. You need to separate that out from officialdom, which I think is much more steady, and then separate those out from scholars of Turkish politics, who I think try hardest, but I don't think get better answers. Better understanding this consequence. Next question. Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe the follow-up of your question. It's going to be a bit of a naive question, maybe, of myself, my question. I'm a Turkish person. I was born in Turkey. I've been living here the last 15 years. My question is about today, basically, by the way, about your book today. Just before this coup attempt, we booked already our tickets for our holiday, and then coup happened, and what we've seen here was horrible, terrible. My head of department, who's British, who called me his office to warn me and asked me whether I'm really going to go to Turkey for holiday. So all my friends cancelled the holidays. Anyway, so we said it's going to be an adventure, so we've been to Turkey. And it was abnormally normal. Everybody was extremely normal. And I didn't only stay in Istanbul, so I stayed in some other place as well. So therefore my question is, obviously I have lots of theories. Like I even said that it is like being like in a Matrix, the movie Matrix. So it seems like everybody had the blue pill, so they were like extremely normal. Or I don't know, maybe they're adding some sort of lithium to the water, so that's why everybody is naturally happy.